Good morning to our friends in the US. Good evening to our friends in India. November 9, 2020. Today's discussion in Heartful Living is how to find happiness and inner freedom through hunger. That is what we're going to discuss today. I know several of our friends have already done this for weeks, months, sometimes even years. So I've invited a few people to come and talk. I don't know how many of them are going to make it today, but we'll go ahead and get started. Maybe we'll give another 5 minutes for more people to join us.
While we're waiting, Dr. Anand, could I ask a question?
Please.
I believe it was 2 weeks ago at a meeting I couldn't attend. I saw in the recording where your brother-in-law mentioned that eating one good meal a day was enough to sustain you. The question I have about that is that enough for a person to thrive?
There are a lot of things that we want to take into account. Now, if we look at overall health, and we have to look at how much vitality, energy, enthusiasm we are able to bring to our day-to-day life, whatever work we are trying to accomplish. When we cut back on food, there is always a fine balance. Obviously, with zero food, none of us can survive. We all need some food. That is, every life form needs energy. So that comes to us from food. There is no getting around that. But what has happened, I think, since agriculture started, I'm going back 10,000 years, is that mankind has come to I would say, sufficiency and more than sufficiency with food. This has been going on for several thousand years. Since we have surplus of food, in a sense, we have to somehow find checks and balances so that we don't put more food in the body than it actually needs. So if you look at our ancestors, apes, chimps, monkeys, they end up eating about 6 to 8 hours every day. They have 50 varieties of fruits, nuts, things like that. They're spending a lot of their awake time eating. Same thing with most of the herbivores like sheep and cows and horses. Our body is more like that. Our body is not like that of a lion or a tiger, which can eat a good meal and go without food for several days. So genetically, evolutionary wise, we are designed to have, I would think, uh, several little bits of plant-based food throughout the day. That's how we have evolved. Since 10,000 years ago, we started harvesting very, very high calorie food in the form of seeds and grains like rice, wheat, other grains. What has happened is we are getting a huge boost of energy, and our requirement of energy has come down in the last few thousand years, physical energy requirement. So the answer to this question of how many times do we need to eat depends on how much activity we are trying to do. Do we have heart issues? Are we trying to get healthier from cardiac problems? And how to find the ideal body mass index. What is our goal 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road? So all these things will go into account. So by and large, if you ask me, Doc, can I survive on one meal a day? The answer is yes for most people in this world that we inhabit, which is modern, urban, and physical activity requirement is much lesser than it has been through most of human evolution. Does it answer that in some roundabout way, Dennis?
More or less. You still didn't really, I don't think, hit on the specific question of thrive, because
Right.
surviving and thriving are not the same.
So why don't we talk about this after I go through some slides that I have today? Because this is
Well, I wondered if it wouldn't be answered because the question is kind of tied into
yeah,
today's topic.
yeah,
But
yeah. So this is what we're going to discuss. We are not trying to get people to survive to 100 years. We want people to thrive, celebrate, and connect at the highest level possible with life itself. So that is what our real goal of heartful living is. So
yeah,
that's what we're going to discuss some more today. So we'll go back to the same question after I go through some slides.
sounds good.
Any other discussion points people would like to open so that we try to cover it through the discussion today? Now let me open it up and ask our friends who are here with us. If you have tried to do a little bit of fasting, uh, trying to gracefully accept being hungry for a little longer, even a few times, you're most welcome to share your experience, your challenges, or your how it's made you feel better if it has already made you feel better or more confident in any way. Anybody is welcome to share their fasting experience. People who've not had a chance to do that so far, I would like them to go first, but anybody can if nobody else is coming up. You'll have to unmute yourself and tell us how fasting has been an experience for you personally.
So, Dr. Anand, as I shared with you on email earlier, um, when I turned 40, I realized I couldn't eat like like they want you to eat three big meals a day. I realized that was way too much food for me. I'm only 5'2", and and when I turned 40, I realized I can't eat like they want us to eat, three big meals a day. And so ever since then, I have basically eaten one main meal a day. If I know I'm doing lunch, then I don't eat much dinner at all. Or if I know I'm going out to dinner, I don't eat lunch. I've always, I guess, been doing intermittent fasting for decades now and didn't even realize that's what you called it. It's just I realized for my size, I can't eat like they tell you to eat. And I really do think Americans eat far more food than they need I mean, to survive and thrive. And then also I realized a while back that if we ate what the Lord puts on our planet, unadulterated, if you just ate plants, if you just ate fruit, if you ate unadulterated, unprocessed food, nobody would be overweight. That what I think causes us to gain so much weight is that we eat too much processed food. I mean, that's been my theory now for a couple of decades. So um, I've no problem with what you're going to say about fasting, because I agree. I think we as Americans eat too much.
You gave a gist of what I'm going to talk about.
Oh,
Very nice. So nice that it's your experience already for several decades. Any other thoughts anyone else wants to share before we go ahead and
Yep,
yeah, I'd like to hear more voices.
this is Keith, and I was going to say that I have tried. I've been overweight, for quite a few years, probably 20 years. I'm 70 years old currently, and what I found is I've tried different approaches, counting calories, different types of diets, and what I found is the intermittent fasting is just much easier because you just make one decision. Like today is a day where I'm going to fast, and that's it. And you don't have to think. You don't have to, try to calculate calories or keep track of the sum. And it's just a very simple decision. And then the other days when you're not fasting, then you can concentrate on, well, now, is this a healthy thing for me to eat? Is this a good like the previous commenter, I think that if you stay away from processed foods and try to stick with vegetables and lean meat, maybe it's a much simpler life, and it seems something that I can stick with. for a good time, and it's been working very well for me.
How long have you tried this, Keith?
Oh, I've I've started and stopped at different times in my life. I suppose I first tried start intermittent fasting maybe 5 years ago, but I have made a commitment, I guess probably uh, around April of this year, and to do it twice a week, and I have been sticking with that since April, and it's I'm down about 25 pounds, I guess, and
Wow, this year you've
so
lost 25 pounds by doing
yeah,
Wow.
once or twice a
yeah,
week intermittent
yeah.
fasting.
But then,
Congratulations.
as I say, then it involves watching carefully the other days, just trying to be reasonable, and that seems to be a formula that I can live with.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And do you want to tell our group if you have any heart health issues?
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I guess I've had high blood pressure for. I've been diagnosed with that for a long time, 30 years ago, I guess, and so I've taken a lot of medication for that. But yeah, now I'm beginning to be able to reduce medication for high blood pressure. And then as far as heart, I've had uh, the PVCs, preventricular,
Irregular
uh,
heartbeats. Excellent.
yeah, irregular heartbeat, but that seems to also be better. So feeling very good actually. And
If
I still do exercise. I like to ride my bike. I work at the University of Missouri, and so when I do go into the office, I try to ride my bike unless there's ice on the ground. But and I still enjoy that very much.
so
So
nice you could share your experience. 25 pounds
uh-huh.
with intermittent
Yes,
fasting is what you shared with us. And you
yes,
feel more confident today compared
yeah,
to 8 months ago. When
I
you're
do.
fasting, how do you personally feel on the day that you're fasting?
I feel. I think initially I was probably just conscious of the hunger, and no longer. I think I'm just once I made the decision that this is my day to fast. I really don't think very much about the hunger. I just think about what it is that I'm trying to do that day, whether it's work or be around family, and it's quite simple. Uh, I would say one of the harder parts is the social aspect of, if you're if your spouse has worked long and hard to make a delicious meal, then uh, that can be a problem sometimes. But I think she has gotten used to it, and so I am always happy to eat the meal the next day, and it's just trying to keep with what the goal that I've set for myself.
So Keith at 70 is trying to uh, get his
Hmm.
heart health a little better by controlling his blood pressure and irregular heartbeat. And he has already lost 25 pounds within the last 6 to 8 months by
Hmm.
intermittent fasting 1 or 2 times in a week.
Yeah.
To do similar things, uh, my colleagues, medical doctors at the University of Missouri, have taken a flight from here to San Francisco and checked in to a program where every day heart rate, blood pressure, electrolytes, and blood lab levels are all checked. And water is the only food that is given. Water is the only thing that is given. So it's called water only fasting programs from 3, sometimes 7, sometimes 10 days. They stay in that center, do some yoga, relaxation techniques, but basically they're just not getting any food in their body. So it's like a detoxification. And people find it really helps get blood pressure under control, so many other things, and maybe it'll inspire them towards better lifestyle. But here in our Heartful Living clinics, what I've seen is without doing any physician supervision, the last 5 to 10 years, we've had so many patients, despite having health issues and age and other challenges, living 2 hours away from even our university hospital in Columbia, they've been able to successfully regain health, give up as many pounds as they want to, along with that, giving up many of their medicines, 8 out of 10 medicines. So, any other quick experiences people want to share before we go to my slides that I wanted to discuss today?
I just want to share that my husband and I just recently started fasting for the 14 hours, and it's not nearly as difficult as it sounds like it would be, because we try not to eat anything after 7 p.m. and sometimes we don't start eating anything until after 10 instead of after 9. But it's for me it's a little easier every time because I grew up very picky about what I wanted, and I couldn't go without food. Pretty easy, not like that, but pretty easily, where as I think, for him, he grew up in the plate club, which was something that a lot of kids suffer from. They have to eat everything in front of them, instead of putting less in front of them. They get a regular sized portion and they're expected to eat it all before they leave the table. And that's good and it's bad. But we both are now pretty much adjusting very well to the 14 hours. And we're trying to talk about how we're going to merge that into a 24-hour period. So we're just pretty excited and looking forward to the transition. So we've cut down our portion sizes and actually eliminated a few things that we were eating that are not really necessary because we can go without all the COVID snacks. When you're stuck in the house, you want to eat this, you want to eat that. But so we've kind of eliminated a lot of those other extra stuff.
Congratulations. Any other quick comments before we start? We'll go ahead and get started with some slides. Do you see my presentation? You can see it. I'm going to request everyone to mute your systems so you can follow along, and then hopefully in the next 20-30 minutes I'll go through this material. So for people who are joining us now, this is part of Heartful Living, which we've done formally for 5 years. The claim is this increases confidence, teaches novel ways to challenge our body through exercise, sports, give up many of your medicines, lose as much weight as you want to gain more health. And this is a program where people can actually not only get rid of heart disease, but also hopefully stop the aging process itself. And the real claim is this entire thing is effortless and fun. We've done this now for 5 years, and this is what we are now going through today is a discussion on how connecting with hunger makes us more free and happy. The next discussion is on attaching with real goals and values in life. So with that, we'll conclude this advanced series. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, one, to connect with you live today, but also we are able to reach others who are not able to join us through posting these recordings via our HiLife Journey website, and it's on YouTube for anyone to share with your friends. So the disclosure is our HiLife Journey, which is aiming at improving confidence. This is the real thing about enjoying life itself. Heart health actually is secondary. So today's discussion is on freedom through hunger. And if you look at the last 20, 30 years, the prevalence and incidence of diabetes has jumped up threefold. This is very alarming in the United States, despite all the science and technology, education and materials available. Why is this? If you look at the prevalence of diabetes as well as obesity, this is 2004. Fast forward to 2010, the incidence is so much higher throughout the country. Another 6 years later, it has become much more. So this is what we are trying to recognize. The answer may not be in what happened in the last 15 years. It may be in what happened in the last million years and what are the new changes that are happening. We will not go into too much detail, but in the next 20 minutes, whatever I discuss, I have this perspective of human evolution and life itself, how it has evolved, so that we can understand our heart health at a deeper and more intuitive way. This is what we need to remember. Today we are alive because our ancestors were successful in surviving against the harshness and challenges of nature. In our evolution, we required to walk, run about 10 miles daily just to get enough food in our stomach for a shelter and to survive from carnivorous animals like the tigers and lions. That left us physically in very, very good shape. These cars were not there for the last million years, but we as human beings had evolved physically to the utmost ability to survive. Now, if that car and this truck were to race, we don't have to discuss who will win this race. Although this truck carries plenty of gas. What I'm trying to communicate here is the petroleum gas that this truck carries is not making it faster. It is actually the burden that it's carrying and it is slowing the truck down. That is what I want everyone to recognize when we add extra weight. And this I have been uh, able to talk about for the last 10 years. In the last 3 to 5 years, patients come back to me and say, Doc, I've recognized how it works. And now I'm shedding this extra weight and feeling that much more alive and healthy, not just for the heart's sake, throughout holistically. So the modern man, unfortunately, is dealing with a much faster pace of life, standard American diet, which is fast food, processed food, and it is not American alone. The whole world is embracing the Western diet, a sedentary lifestyle, and being alone, despite having more social media friends. All these things are adding stress, challenging our physical health and our mental resilience. This is what we require. The World Health Organization says women need about 2000 calories and men about 2500 calories every day to lead a healthy life. On an average, American, however, consumes currently close to 4000 calories, which is a significant increase in the last few decades. So this food intake that has increased is because of marketing. The food industry would love us to have more food, eat out more, and have more soft drinks, energy drinks, Gatorade, everything that the food industry wishes us to consume. We are more gullible because of the media imprint in our psyche. So that's what we have to recognize. So the graph I showed you earlier was for diabetes. This graph is just looking at obesity itself. This is again increasing in the last few decades. Now we are 1/3 of our population, and about half of our country is going to be obese in the next 10 years. When we rank the countries of the world, Europe is somewhere in the middle. Japan and Korea have the lowest incidence at about 3% obesity, whereas US is the world leader in obesity at 30%. I come from urban India. Chennai is where I grew up. Unfortunately, if you look at the cities in India, they are already at 30% obesity, despite India still being a developing country with so many people not getting enough food. So this is the paradox that the world is facing. Obesity is not only in the US, it is also in the developing world. So this is what I wanted to remind. Normal BMI is about 25. But if you are of South Asian, that is India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, if you are from any of those countries, if you have a BMI of 27, you are already obese, whereas BMI of 30 is obesity in the US. Another easier and more direct way at looking at adipose tissue or fat accumulation in the body is the central adiposity or waist circumference. And for men, it is 40 inches, women 35 inches, and in Asian countries, it is over 35 for men and over 32 for women. At that point itself, the risk for metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and heart disease starts going up exponentially. So this is another simple look at what BMI we may have. To say we are overweight, it's 27. To say obesity, it's 45. And morbid obesity when it's attached with other health issues. And we unfortunately see so many people with weight issues in our practice in cardiology in Missouri. This is a new study that just came out in the most prestigious cardiology journal that looks at diet itself and says, based on what we eat, whether we are adding stress to the heart. Inflammatory markers go up in the form of cholesterol numbers and direct inflammatory markers like interleukin, TNF, and high sensitivity CRP. These are the things that we are closely watching out in heart patients. And a meal that we have can directly increase it within few minutes. What type of meal increases inflammation in our body? When we consume red meat, processed meat, organ meat, refined carbohydrates, that means white rice, white bread, and white wheat-based tortillas, and sweetened beverages. That includes most of everything that we drink, including soda, Gatorade, Powerade, and what else? Even fruit juices, they have added sugar in them. So we have to be really careful how to minimize sugar added, not only beverages, but also snacks in the form of donuts and cookies. And basically, I simply tell my patients anything that tastes good, try to stay away from because it increases inflammation. Salt, sugar, and fat are used in various combinations in processed foods and prepackaged meals. So what can we eat that can actually reduce inflammation over the next few minutes to few hours? If we go towards green leafy vegetables, dark yellow vegetables, whole grain that comes in the form of multigrain bread, whole wheat bread, quinoa, brown rice, fruits, any form of vegetables, tea, a little bit of coffee, maybe a little bit of wine may all have some anti-inflammatory properties. When we increase inflammatory food in our diet, we are directly increasing the risk for heart attack and over decades, the risk of blockages, plaque buildup, which we call atherosclerosis. All this is ongoing on a daily basis. The choice that we make helps our health today as well as 10 years from today. If you want to look at fat that comes from animal meat or it comes from dairy products or margarine, cheese, that sort of thing, that is all saturated in trans fat. If you all the oils have saturated fat in them. If you look at monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fat, they actually reduce the risk of heart disease. Although they are called fat, they reduce heart disease. And what foods contain these things? I'm going to show you some more. This is a new study that again came very recently. WAHA, WAHA is the name of the study that looks at consuming walnut. A handful of walnuts every day for 2 years significantly reduces all the inflammatory markers that we talked about. Just walnuts. It's a new study. This is something that I've shared in prior discussions, but I want to remind you here, these monkeys to start out are healthy. They are not overweight and they are eating normal, healthy monkey diet. And both these monkeys are getting old naturally, but they are in the lab. So the monkey on the right side had calorie restricted. That means eating what it usually eats, but only 70%. That means 30% calorie restriction. Whereas the monkey on the left side is going about its routine monkey business with normal diet. What these monkeys are showing is by reducing calorie by 30%, their lifespan is exceeding the normal monkey's average lifespan by about 30%. That's what these monkeys are showing. They are not just living longer, they are not just surviving, they are thriving. And here they are actually doing the jump count. So that's a way to say how well the monkeys are thriving. This monkey has nearly stopped jumping because he's the equivalent of a 70, 80, 90-year-old human being. But this monkey continues to jump like a 30 or a 40-year-old human being. So it's jumping around and being more alive. That's what the story is. So this is what we are now doing through the SMILE program. SMILE means self-inquiry based multi-generational involvement in lifestyle enhancement. For the last 3, 4 months, I've been inviting not only my patients who are the core of Heartful Living, but their children and their grandchildren, anyone over the age of 10 years to join in these sessions, because I'm tailoring it at the level of a 10 or 11-year-old so that they can also look at these concepts, embrace them when they are really young, when their mind is forming, they can take the healthy habits and imbibe them sooner in life. So that the families that have higher uh, incidence of heart disease, the risk goes up 2 to 6 times higher when there is a family member with heart disease. So it is so much more important for their children and grandchildren to embrace holistic, healthful ways sooner in life. So when we come back to mindful eating, mindfulness is such an important component of self-inquiry and heartful living. If you look at the mindful eating scale, for somebody who has a normal BMI of 22, they don't need to lose any pounds. Mindful eating should work most of the time. That means eat when you start feeling hungry and stop when you are satisfied. Don't fill your stomach too much. Don't feel uncomfortable, stuff, or like you want to throw up. That is 8, 9, and 10. So if you cycle between 4 and 7, you can continue to remain healthy. And for this, one of our participants today said at the age of 40, 20 years ago, she decided, I'm going to have lesser meals. So that is what will keep her in this comfort zone. And she's stayed with a normal BMI for 20 further years by recognizing hunger at a deeper level. What if we go to very hungry and starving? At that point, we may overeat. That is what this mindfulness warns us about. So if we wait too long, we may overeat. What if we go beyond one? Will we faint? Will we die? That is the question. What we may end up doing is, when I walk through my hospital corridor, this is what invites me. Hello, goodness. Snack smart, snack now, and snack well. In this picture, do we see anything that is really healthy? Anyone wants to share looking at this picture? You can unmute yourself and tell me which is the healthiest choice in this picture. The drinks or the snacks? Any particular thing you can tell me? This is in my hospital, helping the doctors and healthcare providers with healthy snacks. These are the choices. Anybody wants to unmute yourself and tell me which you would choose if you are hungry?
I will say the water on top shelf of the drink section.
That's the right answer. That is the only healthy thing that I also came across in this picture. Thanks for finding it. So this I've been getting recently. Don't think I'm marketing any particular food. These are things that are at my home. I go to Walmart, Sam's Club, and regular Hy-Vee. These are places I get things from. And these pictures show things that are really healthy. And this has plenty of protein in it. And now recently I'm finding, where can I get poly and mono unsaturated fat? These are extremely healthy. I look at the labels, but I'm just sharing the front here with you. And these slides are all available. Uh, so these have so many nuts in them, and even dark chocolate that has health promoting pro uh, oxidant and anti-inflammatory uh, ingredients in them. This is another component trail mix that can have some more variety in your day-to-day eating. And this is the theme that I want you to remember at the end of this discussion. But this is our reality. 30% of mortality is heart disease related. So heart disease is multifactorial. It's not just one thing that we need to do to reduce our risk. The question becomes, is diet important or exercise? So this is a discussion we had yesterday with Emory University in Atlanta. Which diet helps diabetes and heart health? And this is what I discussed with them. We don't have to separate diabetes from obesity. 95% of diabetes is type 2, which is unfortunately related to overnutrition. That's what it comes down to. So if we are really, really careful, especially if you are South Asian, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, not even a BMI of 24, we have to get to a BMI of 21, 22 to avoid reduce our risk of diabetes. It is such an important factor. The fat tissue in our body, for men, it has to come down to 15%. For women, less than 25% of body composition should be fat for us to give ourselves the best shot at health. So diabetes and obesity are more or less the same thing, unfortunately. And then if you look at heart disease, it is still a disease of aging. Some people have it sooner because they have allowed aging to happen at an accelerated pace. But if we can reduce aging through what the monkeys have shown us by calorie restriction, we have a real shot at reducing our risk for heart attacks moving forward. And then today's discussion, health and life are the same. Uh, I tell in Heartful Living Clinics, uh, health is the freedom to pursue our passion. That is as much I feel about health itself. So we want to live a long, healthy life, but being alive today is what really matters. And for that, you saw what the SMILE program is. The simplest way of remembering SMILE is be happy, be grateful, try to find 20 reasons to smile every hour. And the self-inquiry based multi-generation involvement lifestyle enhancement is to invite your family, your children, grandchildren to heartful living. But more than that, when you embrace these simple methods and show that you are happier and healthier, that is what will inspire your family into heartful living. And let's talk about hunger-based gratitude experience. Huge diet. I deliberately deleted that word diet because it is not intermittent fasting. It is not calorie restriction. It is not a Mediterranean or vegan or plant-based diet or keto diet. It is embracing with gratitude how to stay hungry a little longer every day. Even people with a BMI that is healthy can still stay hungry a little longer and gain health from it. If you are under nutrition, if you are low BMI and unhealthy from it, then we don't recommend this. If you are pregnant, we don't recommend this. Eating disorders, we don't recommend this. If you are type 1 diabetic, we don't recommend hunger as a way of finding gratitude and as a way of experiencing life more holistically. We don't recommend. So, type 1 diabetes, eating disorders, and pregnant and undernourished people, we don't recommend it. This is a pilot patient of mine who shared this picture of his this week and said, share it with the current Heartful Living group because he participated in it before the COVID era and he has taken up fasting. He has always been exercising, but he needed a stent a few months ago. He has come through with better health, more energy, and it was a struggle to get his license back because he's a commercial pilot, but he has done that also. And he proudly shares that he is able to return to being a pilot despite having stent, but most importantly, with so much more confidence now than he has had in the last 10, 15 years when he was not a heart patient. So live the moment. I stopped on my way to work. I biked about 5, 6 miles today to work today morning. So I wanted to share that with you. Good morning, Monday, November 9th. Beautiful fall weather in Colombia. Today's discussion in Heartful Living is how to find freedom through hunger. Welcome, friends. I haven't put any food in my body since yesterday evening. I hope to go through most of today without any food. So what happens if we don't put food and we go to 3, 2, 1? Am I starving today since it's been probably about 16, 18 hours and I've been exercising? The answer is nothing serious will happen to majority of human beings. If we remember to smile, to relax, to connect with gratitude, with something, it may be a family, it may be sport, it may be work, whatever you're grateful for, connect with it, relax, smile, drink plenty of water. And that is the way to enter into natural ketosis. So now when I'm fasting 20, 24 hours, I don't go to 3, 2, or 1. I probably go to 3, but don't go to 2 or 1. From here itself, it connects back to a comfort level with little more water, I'm able to do ketosis, which means I'm burning my own extra fat that is meant to be burned. That is the only reason we have fat in our body, to burn at the time of necessity. So that is the benefit of this particular way of living rather than trying to embrace a ketogenic diet, which means we put ketones into our body in the form of animal fat and protein and things like that. That is not heart healthy. So this is a patient of mine who took to fasting for 50 days, and that's why his weight dropped dramatically. But the important reason, his heart health without needing a bypass surgery, despite numerous health issues, is healthier now this year is because he has embraced a plant-based whole food diet now. So he turned himself vegan and he continues to do some intermittent fasting. So we don't recommend any prolonged fasting in our cardiac wellness program. We only suggest once in 5 to 7 days for most of our patients. But we do have patients who do it even alternate days where they go without eating for 24 hours and they've gained this through self-inquiry, not through me supervising them every day with a blood test. They do it at their own comfort level. They are able to find that they can go deeper through this. So this is our friend who has shown that he can get healthy. And not the reason I show this picture here is everybody wonders whether I am a pessimist or optimist. But in these 54 days that he did not put any food in his mouth, he felt so much connected, so much alive. Physically, he is tired and exhausted at the end of 54 days. He's not only losing the fat, he's also losing muscle to keep himself uh, going through the natural ketosis. That involves muscle loss also after few days of burning fat. So despite that, his energy level, mind, and clarity is so high. He is perceiving life holistically. He feels cup is not half full. It is totally full and overflowing. That's how he was at the end of that fast. So that is why I want to remind you about entering into flow. So when, for instance, a musician creates new music, his skill set is high, but the challenge of writing new music allows him to enter into flow. For people who participate in sports, that also is true. Sitting down and watching television is apathy. This was created in the 1970s. Spending time on social media doesn't feature here, it comes in the negative. It actually adds significant stress. So it's not a boredom or a apathy, it's a big challenge that we want to avoid. So Gandhi said, there is no prayer without fasting, no fast without prayer. God comes to the hungry in the form of food. Ramana Maharishi, who teaches self-inquiry, says it consists in retaining the mind in the self, and silence itself is the real teaching. So he would stay quiet without talking for several months, and that's how he communicated his message. This flow experience that we talked about, we want to avoid boredom, but we don't want to be challenged too much, which will cause us anxiety. We want to uh, find the right amount of challenge. For me, if I were to play tennis with somebody my age who has similar skill, I have an opportunity to get into flow. If I were to play tennis with a national champion, I'll be very anxious not to be embarrassed. If I were to play tennis with somebody who never played tennis, then I'll be bored because they can't give me any balls to play. So there's no point in winning against somebody who's never been on a tennis court. So finding the right amount of having some skill, enjoying the sport, and then finding somebody who can challenge you sufficiently allows you a chance to enter into flow. This is the book Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote in 1975 about optimal engagement with tasks, and where we lose that logical mind and we go beyond it into our heart, our subconscious, and freedom from consciousness itself. And intrinsically, it is enjoyable and we feel so much alive. This is what he described. Now I'm going to take you back 2000 years. When Thiruvalluvar in our language, Tamil, he said, "Attradu அறிந்து கடைபிடித்து மாறல்ல தூய்க்க துவர பசித்து." What he is saying is, recognize healthy foods, eat mindfully, but remember, eat only when you are really, really hungry. This is what he has said 2000 years ago for people to stay healthy. So that forms the foundation. Then Thiruvalluvar also said, "Nandri மறப்பது நன்றன்று நன்றல்லது அன்றே மறப்பது நன்று." What he is saying is, it is not good to forget some good deed that was done to you. So remember good deeds done to you. But more importantly, instantaneously forget and forgive any misgivings, any other trouble that somebody caused you. So what he is telling us is not easy to accomplish. Forgetting in the instant itself without holding it in your heart. That's what he's inviting us to live life as. So hunger is the first thing. Then this gratitude is what he is talking about. And this third thing, ஒளி ஒருவருக்குள்ள வெறுக்கை இலி ஒருவருக்கு திறந்து வாழுதும் என. This means the light of life is connecting with the energy, passion. And to even think you can go around living without being passionate and enthusiastic itself, that thought itself is a disgrace. That's what he is saying. So all this was written 2000 years ago. So he invites us to stay hungry until he invites us to eat healthy things once we get hungry. But even more important is connecting with gratitude to the good things that have happened in our life and instantaneously forgetting anything that is harmful to us. And this will allow us to enter into flow, not through tennis or writing music, as Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote in the 1970s. This is a way of life itself. So this is what heartful living is, and this is what has worked in the last 10 years for so many patients here in Missouri in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, despite so many health challenges. So this is what we have shown works for our community. So flow is not specific to any sport, art, or any trained activity. It can be achieved through gratitude because we can reach flow by opening our heart to some gratitude. So this fasting that I'm doing today is because I'm grateful for this opportunity to bike in nature. And heart patients can reverse aging itself through heartful living and HiLife. Then healthy people can slow the aging process through hunger and gratitude experience. So when I say healthy people, I mean people in their teens, 20s, 30s who are normal BMI. They can still connect with hunger gratefully and catch up on the amount of calories they need on the other 6 days of the week. So I'm telling my children who are 10 and 18 years old to also embrace this fasting. Thanks so much for this chance. And I'll again open it up for a few questions and we'll close from there. You'll have to unmute yourself. So we are saying fasting is a way, and calorie restriction is important on the days that you're not fasting. But either way, connecting gracefully, gratefully with hunger itself is the real path of self-inquiry. So that itself is the meditation. Hunger is the first step to mindfulness and meditation. From there, we will find 100, maybe 1,000, maybe a million ways towards better health. So this is the starting point. And being hungry will make you more grateful. Being more grateful will allow you to stay hungry a little longer until you reach your health goals. And now I'm not trying to lose any weight, and I still fast, and I catch up those calories on the days that I actually eat and, and make up for it. That only gives me the energy to bike this many hours or play singles tennis for 2 hours, several days a week. So that's how I catch up the calories. We'll open it up for your specific questions in the next 5-10 minutes.
I have just a quick question. On the last slide, what does the HUGE acronym stand for? Is that, or is it?
Huge, HU for hunger, G for gratitude, and E for experience. So we first label this as hunger, gratitude, experience, diet. And now I feel that word diet itself is limiting the scope of hunger, gratitude, experience. Experience means life. So if you can experience hunger, words say only a tenth of the real experience. When you are able to connect with gratitude and connect with hunger, that experience is of life itself.
Okay.
That's what HUGE stands for. An
I thought
invitation to understand your consciousness at a deeper level.
Okay. Thank you.
So there is so there is Gayatri asking, sir, how to keep a check of calorie what we eat? Any app for this? Eating, I feel, is a privilege. There are so many people throughout the world, that too in this COVID world, who are struggling to get food in their stomach. So the people, we have to realize that food is not to be taken for granted. So that actually, I think, answers in short why I feel calorie counting is degrading our experience of eating. I'm not opposed to it, but heartful living has seen as much success and 10 times more success in people who are 60, 70 and beyond, and they are getting to weight that is even better than through gastric bypass surgery, while they are feeling as much energy as they want to do everything. So this calorie counting we don't need. I want you to enjoy everything that you think is fun for you, but gradually move towards that one slide I showed. Reduce the inflammatory components and eat more healthy fruits, vegetables, those grains and omega-3 that I showed in the poly and monounsaturated fat. It comes to the form of nuts, raisins and walnuts and dark chocolate. That sort of combination of things. But don't worry too much. I've not till today counted calories. It's a very logical and I would say methodological way of looking at life. Whereas we can live life more intuitively. We can ask ourselves if we are hungry and give food with gratitude. That's all is needed. All these are superfluous, is what I personally feel.
And looking at one of the other videos that since we started, you mentioned olive oil being not too good for you. And I've just been hearing for the last, I don't know how many years, how olive oil is better than cooking oil and all that other stuff. You know, I even use olive oil like on a salad with the little garlic instead of salad dressing. So what makes olive oil not too good?
We need 10 to 15% of calories from fat. The pictures I showed you with the nuts and all those things, poly and monounsaturated fat, they are the best. And oil does not feature there. Maybe olive oil has the least inflammatory component, but even that has more calories. So what we have for cooking at home is extra virgin olive oil, and we and use it, but we don't add oil for health. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So we need oil to cook. So we use a few drops here and there to cook, but we
Okay.
don't add oil so that we can live longer. We don't. Earlier, there was consensus that little bit of wine is making us live longer. No, now all forms of alcohol we've moved away from believing it's making us healthier. So real food, few times a day, and if you want to have 10 meals a day, that is fine, as long as all the 10 meals are really healthy. If you have just fruits and vegetables, if I was to only sustain myself on fruits, vegetables, and nuts, I'll probably have to eat 10 times for me to do work as a doctor. If I want to play tennis, it's not easy because tennis means 2 hours where we are exerting so much, and I'm burning about 1,000 calories. To get that in fruits and vegetables, it takes a very serious effort. We have to take up food eating as a mainstream work because none of us have that much time. We have to do a little bit of fasting, this and that, to give the body a chance to recover from the extra things that we put in. As far as oils, all the oils we want to minimize. The healthiest oil may be extra virgin olive oil.
Okay. Thank you.
What other questions? Discussion.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I am Kumaresh and I am from Atlanta. And I have been having diabetes for 30 years. And before diabetes, I was not having this craving for food. But now after diabetes, I have this craving for food. Almost I'm addicted to food. And I try to fast. My last meal of the day is 7 p.m. and then my first meal is next day, like 10 or 11 or 12 or 1. So
Are
I
you
try
able to
to
come on
grab
video also so we can see you? But if you can't, fine.
I am using a separate monitor from laptop. So the
So then
angles
I'm going to ask you, what's your age?
are
What's your age?
60.
And you were diabetic at what age?
30 years ago.
30 years
Right.
you had diabetes.
Yeah, my father had diabetes and he died
And
of.
have you been on insulin?
Oh, 2 insulins, yes.
So you've been on insulin for 30 years?
No, my insulin started after 10 years or so.
Okay.
So I
And
started with tablets and then slowly introduced one insulin and
what
then,
is your waist
yes.
circumference?
I used to be 32, now it is like 35, 36.
So you got diabetic when your waist circumference was only 32?
Right.
Uh, you are of South Indian origin, I
Yeah,
guess.
I am from Kanchipuram, Chennai. Yeah.
Kanjivaram. See,
Yes.
we are unfortunately at the highest risk for diabetes, heart disease, people from India. The reason for that is not clear. And getting to a most ideal body weight is the best we can do. On top of that, if medicines are needed, we need to take them. I have many diabetic patients. I have numerous endocrinology physicians and nutritionists who participate in heartful living, and they've taken it up. Had this hunger and gratitude. I was recommended metformin for pre-diabetes 15 years ago. At that point, I was still a waist circumference of only 32, but I was eating a lot of white rice. That's
Right,
how
right.
I grew up in India, eating plenty of white rice. So I gave that up completely about 10, 15 years ago. And now I have brown rice and quinoa. Even that, I try to reduce and have more of fruits and vegetables. And that way, I've stayed away from needing medicines. So for you, when the BMI was 32 and now it's 35, my request to you is to quickly find a way to get your waist circumference down to 32, and then body fat percentage should come down, ideally below 20, even lesser if possible. And half an hour of resistance training, I would suggest. Weight training, so that when you do 2 times a week, that's all it takes, not every day. And then 3, 4 days a week, brisk walking. When you do a little bit of resistance training, when you build muscle, it's able to metabolize so much better, and your required insulin resistance will resolve. So I'm glad to talk to you more sometime after this, and we can hopefully work to show you how this program might give you a chance to get rid of several of the things that you're on, including insulin. We have
Thank you.
a patient
Thank you.
who
Maybe I will
for
book an
10 years
appointment
who
with
has
you.
stopped.
Yeah. My problem is starving and binging. Starving and binging. That's the problem. And
Starving is
I
good
have
for you,
educated. Yeah.
and don't binge, and you'll have to still survive on healthy things. My pictures I showed you of the nuts and grains, those are the things you can have. And if you go through the June, July heartful living sessions that are in HiLife journey, you will see what foods we recommend and little more details. Today we just focused on fasting experience itself, but the more detailed recordings I can share with you. If you shoot me an email, I can send it to you. It's at www.highlifejourney.org.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for quoting the Tirukural too. Atradhu arindu tuikathu orapasittu.
Wonderful.
That's the
Thanks
best
for joining.
quote.
Anybody else who has
Yeah.
not?
I have a question for you, Doctor. This, and forgive me if this involves, unfair stereotypes, but I've always had this nagging question of how is it that populations in Southeast Asia survive on white rice and are apparently, thin and doing reasonably well with their health, and yet they eat, a processed carbohydrate. Am I missing something, or is I've always been intrigued by how that works.
My parents are both physicians. My dad has just joined us, Dr. Chokalingam from Chennai.
Mhm.
So even at a young age, from the age of 10 or 12, I gave up eating the yellow of the egg because I grew up in a cardiologist's home. But I did not give up white rice until about 30, 35 years of age because I didn't realize that it was hurting us. Being physicians, people don't have that type of recognition. That's what I'm trying to say. When I became pre-diabetic, I realized my carbohydrate intake from white rice was the culprit. Despite me exercising and maintaining a good BMI, once I gave up the white rice, I was able to very easily get the blood pressure into the 80s. My request is to mute your systems uh, so that we can hear the conversation. And so that's the thing. Uh, South Asians probably genetically require much less food intake to do the amount of activity that they are doing. So the requirement is lesser genetically, and when the same amount of food is provided, they get the metabolic syndrome and heart disease sooner. That's a broad picture, but specific genes and things like that are still being worked out. So white rice should be given up, and the white bread should be given up. And when I showed you that picture of what is available in my hospital, and you were able to quickly guess the water is the only healthy thing, why not the other healthy things? Is somebody trying to make us unhealthy? The answer is we live in a, free world, free market world, which is consumer driven. If many people going through that corridor are willing to pay money for the healthy choices, in 6 months, that place will be changed to things that are healthy. For the same $1, we'll be getting only healthy things like maybe bananas and oranges and maybe a box of salad or nuts, the trail mixes, that sort of thing will be replaced. Instead, these prepackaged sugar added stuff is being sold because that is what the consumer is asking. So once we change our consciousness at the individual levels, once we show our families that we can and our friends that we can be healthy, the system will change itself accordingly. So Dennis, I want to come back to your question. You had asked, can we survive? Can we thrive? Did heartful living itself answer that question? Or is there more answers we need to find?
No, I think I have a better understanding now. And uh, another thing that I got out of today's session, I would say, is that the importance of when you are hungry, eating the right things. And I've always known that in a way, but it's presented in a more meaningful way here to and how it relates to my own particular health. I've never struggled with weight. I've been very fortunate that way. Until I was in my early 50s, I still weighed basically what I weighed when I was in basic training in the Army. Then the last 10 years of my working life, I was sitting behind a desk and I gained about 15 to 20 pounds over 10 years, which I have since mostly dropped. So weight has not been a big issue for me, but I can tell from my own experiences when I try to get my weight back on balance that for me, completely cutting out things that I like doesn't work. What's important for me is to eat less, to not deny myself the things that I like, but to eat less of it.
We have to celebrate food. That's one
Yes.
of the basic things that makes us alive. I'll tell you one small thing. My son is 18. He's played tennis for the last 12, 14 years from the age of 5. He competes at state and national level tennis events. He's thin because he's a tennis player, I guess, but I've asked him to do more fasting. The reason is he will do better during the tennis match. That is what I feel because it makes the mind so much more focused that it's going to help athletic performance. Tennis is not just a physical sport. It has so much, I would say, calming of the mind is needed. We have to overcome the numerous logical hurdles that we throw on ourselves so that we can move freely and play at a subconscious and deeper level. So
It's a discipline.
so,
It's a discipline, and so is fasting.
so it is a moving meditation. That is
Yeah.
what I'm inviting through fasting, even healthy athletes. That's something I wanted to share. Any other final thoughts before we wind up? Dad, you want to say something? You have to unmute yourself. And I'm going to request everybody else to mute yourself.
Really, I'm very happy Nice, Dennis. You raised some questions, and I appreciate that what you are focusing about fasting, how really helps. And when you was asking that white rice, any rice products are really not good, I know that it increases your glucose level, and the equally bad thing is our wheat preparations also. It's not that wheat is very safe. So as far as many they think diabetic, they switch over from rice to wheat. Wheat also equally bad, is a equally bad culprit. Why I'm saying that everything is same except very fraction of protein is not, does not matter. So both wheat and rice are equally bad. So those who have been consuming both the things, and more bad if you are going to polish it, I say maida or this one or rice, white rice or like that, much more worse because removing all the nutrients. So the best thing will be taking millets. That is really more of protein, and glucose increase may not be much in case of millets and small grains like that. Otherwise, very important thing, vegetables. We always believe in our country, in our state, taking a lot of onion, garlic, really very good, very many aspects. And when you are taking a food, most important thing I would like to stress is you must not compromise in that micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all the things must be balanced. If you're going to say I'm really fasting, because each cell needs all the components, including amino acids, all the things that are making up the genes of proteins, all the things must be given a very effective stress on how balanced food you must be. And about the macronutrients, definitely rice and wheat are really bad. Other things must be really balanced. And you stressed nicely about that. How much water you must take like that. So all the time, the food must be balanced, keep the weight optimal. And as he has been stressing all the time, be happy, keep smiling, and be at peace of mind. All the things really matters enormous.
Excellent,
Really
Guru.
appreciate honor.
One, thanks for sharing this. Do you see my slide up now? Can you see my slide?
No,
No, you can't?
no.
Okay. I just wanted to share one more slide before we close today's session.
Yes, now we can. Which one you would like to highlight?
Do you see this?
Yes,
So when we talk about heartful living's hunger gratitude experience, what are we really talking about? Remember to celebrate food. Also, remember if you can do it with family, friends, it's a better experience. Take time, 20 minutes we need for each meal. If you don't have that time, it's okay not to eat any food. Have some water and go on till you find the time, 20 minutes to sit down. We need to chew every mouthful. And it's not easy to find any healthy snacks and drinks and things like that. The pictures that I showed you of trail mix, this and that, are things that I have as part of my meal. They are not snacks. I don't snack at all. So most days I have 2 or 3 meals, and that's it. And cook at home. This is again becoming such an important thing with all the processed foods, restaurants, this and that. We are the people directly taking care of the food ingredients if we make the cooking at home itself. And important thing is when you are grocery shopping, remember 9 out of 10 things are hurting our health. Find the 1 out of 10 that is truly healthy, which ends up being the fruits, vegetables, multigrain bread, and the nuts that I showed you, things like that. Find the healthy things again and again at the grocery store. After a month or two, you'll find at home none of the unhealthy things are left. You don't have to do anything dramatic by trashing this or that. You just find that over time, your uh, home is replaced with healthier options again and again. If you keep experimenting, you'll find more and more better choices. Real plants, vegetables, they have plenty of fiber. And that's why that carbohydrate is not the same as the carbohydrate that you get from a donut or a cookie. That fiber makes it so much more nutritious for the microbiome in our stomachs, in our gut, and for absorption of the carbohydrates, the natural way how we are designed, and avoid processed foods. Remember, the food, the plate should be colorful. The fruits, vegetables, they are part of a meal. They are not snacks. Remember to eat only when you're really hungry, and appreciate food with gratitude. Don't look at food as hurting us. It is nourishing us, allowing us to celebrate life even more.
Another small thing, Anand.
Yes, Dad.
When you are taking your food with your family and friends, especially above the age of say 75 or 80, more elderly age you are, your concentration only in taking food. Don't have any discussions or arguments when you're taking food, because even a small drop of water or small drop particle in your food, by mistake it goes to the respiratory tract, regurgitation is enough to kill you. Many of our patients you would have also experienced that they were taking food with the discussions, they laugh or even think other than even in a talk, just think other than taking your food. The thinking itself will divert, because when you are taking food and you are going to swallow it, very many reflexes must work properly, because the common passage where food and air is the same in the nasopharynx. So unless we are very, very prudent, so conscious about taking food, that's what I used to like to stress. Many of my heart patients that died at the age of 80, 88, that's they were taking food, they get choked, then we cannot escape, because you'll get instantaneous respiratory and cardiac arrest. So when you're taking food, concentration must be only food. Younger the people, okay, they can come out even if you're going to regurgitation. That's what I would like to stress. And your parents or grandparents or anyone, you must give that advice to them strongly. Very important.
So we have to be
And in
mindful
that,
of the eating experience,
yes,
right? Excellent.
very good. Thank you. I really appreciate Anand. I was a little busy in another talk. Anyhow, glad I was able to join at least in the end.
Thanks so much. So we'll meet again next Monday, same time, for a few more experiences, and that will conclude our highlight. So see you next Monday, same time. Have a wonderful week. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Dr. Anand.
Thank you.
Thank you.